Good morning to my treasured friends. I am Rabina Sham from the Warao Nation of Trinidad and Tobago. Our nation was firstly known as Nabarima Island. Nab meaning the waves, Arima meaning father. This is one of the earth gods of our northern cosmological world. The other earth god is Waro, and this is a sacred mountain called Naparima Hill in San Fernando, Trinidad and Tobago. These are the two northern earth gods, Waro and Nabarima. A sanctuary of our progenitor Haburi, who restarted the traditions, or who restored the traditions of the Wa Kano Arau people, the Kano people, who then was known as the Kano people. I am Rabina Shah, which means I try to have an opinion that shines like the sun way. Shah means I try to be a devotee of the Supreme Great Spirit, Ilamu, Shiva, Allah, the Great God. I am an elder of the Warao Elders Council. We registered as a non-government organization to represent our nation and retain its status as our ancestors' nation and our people's nationality. Under Article 15 of the Human Rights Law, our status is the full extent of our rights in natural law. I've been appointed by our nation's Elders Council as the spokesperson for the Warao Nation in our ancestors' territory, namely Nabarima Island. I'm also the Grand Chief of the Warao Nation, as appointed by the Elders Council also. European invasion by Spain, France, and England. They unilaterally signed or agreed among themselves in a secret clause within the Treaty of Amiens in 1802 that England shall own and colonize our territories and rename them Trinidad and Tobago. Situated northeast of South America, Venezuela. As a result of the above unlawful action undertaken by the above-mentioned European nations, we, the Warao Nation of the territories renamed Trinidad and Tobago, became a colonial state under European decree against international law, and I'm quoting from 1538, Francisco de Vitoria. Our nation never signed any treaty with any European nation or nations, nor have we consented to same. On the aforementioned evidence submitted, Europe and the United Nations acted ultra-virus, natural law or law, international law, law of conquest, and any other law, constitutional or otherwise, enforced by others that support or purport to recognize Trinidad and Tobago as a state within our national boundaries. European history in Trinidad and Tobago had imprisoned our Warao nationals and other indigenous nations that we have allowed by oral treaty to live side by side among us with great honor and respect for us on the ground of natural law, example the laws of nature or living in harmony with nature, or natural laws. Imprisonment sentenced us to European indoctrination and repudiation of our sacred traditions, language, and territory unlawfully. Our survival, therefore, was European demands to adopt their traditions or suffer and die fighting their superior military domination, guilty of genocide, land stealing, or missionizing by the Catholic and Christian or Jewish, biblical, Roman Catholic, and European religion, politics, and economic rule in their survival systems, which unlawfully claimed our territories as Crown lands. And after 1962, under the United Kingdom Independence Act of Trinidad and Tobago, which they and their Commonwealth citizens inherited unlawfully. The result of this state of our people's minds after this historical tragic ordeal is the loss of our traditions, i.e. our religion, which is shamanism, our political system, which is called the Bacchanal system, our cultural upbringing, loss of our language, loss of our ancestral territories, and our divisions as a people. Today we are a people who have lost our rights to our identity, our sacred territories, our language, and most importantly, our spirituality. In an ocean of Christian mysteries, we are expected to believe without rational or highest reason. Our people has our own creation story. Our creator is Lord Mawari. Sustainer is known as Weyo, and destroyer as Hoa. Our shamans once communicated with the Great Spirit and its nature of unseen forces. This knowledge was almost destroyed and was studied by Europeans to their limited degree of comprehension, for their memory and DNA was foreign to our experience and traditional system of historical experience. The universities have invested much money and research to steal our secrets of spiritual realization. Harvard has a center for world religions. Some of our religious knowledge is empirically kept there for commercial and academic study. We, the indigenous nations of the Americas, have to recognize the spiritual power of our ancestors' communication with the spiritual guardians of our interconnected ancestral protectors. If we lose this and adopt the European religions and scientific knowledge that leads to nuclear destruction and control of our resources, then we lose the opportunity to liberate ourselves as humans from this earthly prison of man-made misery. A young native indigenous person from Suriname, after having a conversation with me, told me that we indigenous people have to lift up one another. We have to lift up one another. Knowledge flowed from the voice of a baby. This young man or this child brought this knowledge to me. For we saw each other as children, fathers and mothers upon Mother Earth before Father Sky. One partner in nature and manifested infinity. Some 40 years ago, around there, some Miami natives visited Trinidad. They were in the company of Professor Nahum Kanhai from Sudbury University. They honored our ancestors' remains at Banwari Trace, where it was found by archaeologists who claimed it was some 5,000 BC old. They gave me an offering to bury in the earth, instructed me to bury it in a tree's root where it could not be found. I thank them for the honor bestowed upon me to receive this great offering on behalf of my ancestors. That memory remains in my heart, where the Great Spirit lives in each one of us. Yes, the Great Spirit lives within our hearts, every one of us, within every one of us. And that makes us one. And I'm referring here to all humanity and all living life forms. Now we are one. Let that memory be retained, for we shall lift up ourselves when we recognize this truth. The truth stands alone, it needs no help. It knows itself, it breathes, it hears, it tastes, it sees, even without eyes, for it is spirit, not material or illusion. I reach out to you requesting that we embrace our respective religions, languages, and experiences with the natural power of our great traditional experiences, known after years of trial in the earthly challenge to defy illusion and be the self, or true self, enjoying eternal reality, undisturbed by the frailties of ignorant men who are destined to die at any cost. Such a short time we live compared to what time recognizes, even without material life forms. Shall the Great Spirit bring us together to learn from each other that which knows no fear, no greed, no desire, that which blinds us from reality? We must get away from that. At home here are but a few who seek the self-realization. They, my people, are blinded by the European misconceptions of the purposes in this life. They fear to live and to die for the truth. We came from a home without these bodies that we possess. What shall we carry as memories when we return to our home? Shall they be acceptable or rejected by ourselves, our true selves, that is? Who are we, or shall we forever be? I hope in time we shall meet our sacred mountain, at our sacred mountain, Nabarima, to share our precious knowledge in a brief period of eternal bliss, that we can learn more about ourselves in order to return home and be truly honored for who we are. We are but particles of one great spirit, free even in our present life form, which houses our eternality temporarily. I have no great education. I'm a baby in the presence of the majority. Please forgive me for any mistake I may have made and correct me so that I shall be free in sacred company. You know, we have struggled for, let's see, 11 from 23. Well, that's about 12 years. We have been speaking to the government. They've had a cabinet-appointed committee under the People's Partnership Government, which was led by Kamala Prasad-Bissessar. And they held many discussions about us. We submitted a document called the evidence then, with respect to our right to claim our sacred mountain, Nabarima Hill, or Nabarima Hill. And the governments, because we have new government now, the PNM government, who have always sidelined us from the beginning, and never wanted to deal with us in the first instance, because we have been speaking about our rights to our ancestors' lands, about our rights to practice our religion, about our rights to self-determine our destiny, about our rights to our resources. All the amount of money that they are getting from our resources, they are doing as they please with it, and we get nothing from it. So they don't want to give up the power that they hold. They have actually, what we call in Trinidad, throw me in the bamboo. In other words, they don't want to deal with me. I am like personal non grata. When I say I speak as the spokesman of the Warao Nation, you see. And so, I have a dilemma here where I live a simple life, you know. I fast at least 5-6 days a week. I pray, not as I would like to pray, you know, but I do pray, communicate with the Great Spirit. I'm not a shaman, I want to make that clear. But I love shamanism, I love holiness. I love the sadhus, I love the rishis, I love the mulbis, I love the great high priest of Egypt and so on. You see, I'm a student of religion. For my little term in the Cipriani Labor College, where I studied labor studies, you know, I have a national diploma in that. It's the highest education I've ever achieved. Standard of education, that is. I learned about politics, I learned about history, and how it affects, our people. But most of all, my heart was always touched by religion. It speaks about God, it speaks about me, where I came from, who is my creator and all of that, and I wanted to know more about this God. And I still continue to search for this God within my heart. And I'm glad that to some extent I have a glimpse at least, of who this God is, and my obligation, my purpose in life, to serve this God. I have one daughter. She has 3 children, 2 girls and a boy. It hurts my heart to see that they have been misled. They have not grown up in a traditional lifestyle like I did. I'm 73 years, and imagine 73 years ago, and that was when the whole tradition was lost even then. The tradition is really the behavior, the knowledge, and the way we live. And in those days, we cannot pass an elder in the road without paying our respect to the elder. And the elder had the right to punish us for anything wrong that we did, And our parents would additionally punish us, if the elder complained about the wrong we did. So that in that society, or in that frame of mind where we grew up, we knew each other. We were like fathers and mothers and brothers and sisters and husband and wives, We were people that, we didn't have to do commerce too much, Uncle Philip would pass with a bag of cassava and drop about 10, 20 pounds home, We would tell Uncle Philip, well, boy, you hold that $20 or something, man, you still need, some. He said, no, I ain't want that. I said, hold it still, and we lived, in an environment where the $20 didn't matter. What mattered is that we lived in love and care for each other. My aunt was named Tanti Mami, And this beautiful lady, I'm not talking about her physical appearance here, the beautiful part of her, Tanti Mami, when Uncle Philip's wife got sick, would do her chores at home and would go to Uncle Philip's wife's home and take care of her, bathe her, clean her off, and so on, and give her the doctor medicine. And well, in those days we used to use more bush medicine until she recovered. So it was like a family, And these traditions have been lost in the world of the European society. In my opinion, European peoples are barbarians, And the little study that I've done in European history and some of the Roman history, I read a book by the name of The Essene Doctrine of Jesus Christ, And, it appeared to me as if the Jews were actually fighting against the Romans for their freedom, so to speak. And that Jesus Christ was one of the rebels who fought there. He was the son of Abbas, Barabbas, and Ba means, the son, right? First son, as the case may be. And he was, a revolutionary, as we would say today. Some people, the Europeans call us terrorists, when we pick up arms and fight for our lives. For example, we have a situation today in the world where Palestinians are fighting for their lives. And this began in 1948 when the British, actually took Palestine lands and gave it to Israel, claiming that the Bible and God gave Israel these lands, and all the spiritual arguments or the religious arguments to support Israel. But these Palestinian people were living there for thousands of years, And then we have a situation where, according to the Bible's records, this brother called Abraham, the father of the Israeli nation, the Jews, per se, he had children with an Egyptian wife named Hagar, although they call her a slave or a servant, you see. And there was a sort of a rift, in my opinion, where the children of Abraham's first wife, which was his sister, incidentally, felt themselves special and superior to Hagar's children. And so Abraham had to send Hagar away with her son, and they created a nation which eventually came to be the Islamic religion, or the Islamic version of Abraham's nation. And so the Jews, continued their way of life, and they seem to think that they are special people chosen by this great God. The question I ask myself, why would God choose a special people or a special nation when He gave all of us a free will to do as we please? I would imagine that we would have to use that free will to judge ourselves by our actions and our deeds. And I don't expressly believe, that God would favor one and disfavor the other. I think that God is a fair God, and what you earn or what you do, you should pay for, in my opinion. So that being said, I'm not being racial or against the Jews. They are human beings, and they must be good Jews. But I'm sort of disappointed, in some of the Jewish philosophies and so on. And it's amazing to see that, in my view, it appears that the Jews were actually the people who were incorporated into the Roman political system. They were actually part of the people who created the Roman Catholic religion. And Catholic means a universal religion. So Rome wanted to have a universal religion, a universal political system, a universal law, where people would be recognized for who they are. It's unfortunate that they had to exercise violence to achieve this objective. And it's unfortunate that Israel felt that the offer that Rome made was not sufficient. They wanted to be free and so on. And nothing is wrong with that, if a person wants to be free to practice their own religion and so on. The whole question of domination by one particular nation or set of nations, for example. If you go back to the history of Spain, for example, who before 1942 or around 1942, before Columbus came to the West Indies, Spain were actually burning Jews alive with pitch and taking away their monies. The question arises as to why. How come these Jewish people would have so much money in Spain? What were they doing to accrue such capital value and so on? Were they acting against the Spanish people or something like that? The same question has to be asked about Germany. How come they earned, more than half of Berlin and all this sort of thing? So some might say that Hitler, exterminated the Jews and committed genocide and all of that. But I understand that Hitler wanted to send them to Gibraltar, get them out of Germany. And he couldn't do that, and so on. And so he had to take, drastic measures to get rid of them. I'm not supporting Hitler by drastic measures or anything like that. I really don't know the true history of this thing. But it seems to me that Hitler had a problem with the Jews, and he dealt with it in the way that he felt it should be dealt with. Yesterday, we find the Jews, after being given by England the lands of the people from Jerusalem, the Palestinian people and so on, because they claimed that was their land in the early beginning and so on. Their history, in Egypt was another story. I'm not going to go into all these biblical stories. What I'm saying is, look, it appeared to me that the world has been misled with all of these religions that have been created by fellas like, Ambrose, St. Ambrose, forget the other fellow's name, Ambrose comes to mind, and others, And in the Council of Nicaea, there was a fellow, who was saying that Jesus Christ was not God, he was a man. And then these fellows, Ambrose and the other one, as I say, I forget his name now. They actually, they misrepresented the whole story. But the thing is, I'm not trying to be against anybody or bad talk anybody. I'm saying to indigenous people, look, we have an initial something, natural law, and we have learned to live together with each other and so on. And we need to return to living under natural law. We need to communicate with each other, you know. We have the internet now, and we can speak to each other, you know. We can, you know, share our values, and it may help to advise the world, you know, on the way forward. And I think, you know, it's time that we make our contribution, and it's time that we get together as indigenous people, regardless of our nations or our locations, our respective territories. Turtle Island is now called United States of America and Canada, you know. And so the whole place has been colonized, the entire whole Africa and so on. And now the colonized people, the victims, are now beginning to rise, and the only alternatives seem to be war. The United Nations has failed in its attempt to address peace, because it's literally a European organization created after World War II, so that Europe could control the world, you know. And the mere idea that it's supposed to be a democratic institution where the majority is supposed to rule, and this is on the pretext that the majority would exercise its highest reason, which is the basic concept of natural law, something that would reason that would please God, per se, you know. And you know, the thing is, we've got to get together, you know. We've got to, if it's to get rid of this United Nations, because, you know, democracy, they say freedom and the majority rule and all this sort of thing, yet you have 5 nations or whatsoever it is, you know, one nation could tell the 99 or the 100%, as the case may be, I ain't doing what you're saying, and what you're saying, whether it makes sense or not, I'm not going to obey that, and I'm going to dominate the world, and this hegemony business and all of that. And America is saying that they're the supreme powers of the world now, and right now they're looking to enter into World War III. It seems to me that we're going to have a nuclear war just now, and we might not have an America or most of these European nations. I don't know, they decide to side with Israel and all of that. Half of the world might be exterminated or vaporized, according to Conor McGregor and, you know, these fellas. So I want to stop here now and say thank you for listening to me and that sort of thing. And may the Great Spirit be with us, and I hope that we could begin to communicate with each other. I have an email address which is at the Warao Nation 11, which is 11, at gmail.com. I have a telephone number which is 296-8691. Anyone is free to communicate with me. I am a very poor man. I'm a pensioner, so I may not have electricity all the time, but if you continue calling, I'm trying to arrange, you know, to get a sort of something to charge my phone. I think they call it a power bank or something like that. And I'm running out of charge here now, so I've got to stop. And I wish to thank you for listening to me, and have a pleasant day. And love in the house, you know, love the house. House is the heart, house is the body. Love in everybody's house, you know. May the Great Spirit be with us. Namaskar. Marioka. Thank you very much for listening. Bye-bye.